Hi there folks, welcome to the first of a long series of new videos by the brilliant expat Taffy. A series of videos titled Apollo Hoax, Bertie Slack displaying his insanity, full series, #1. Now folks, what we've got here is something new. Over the last 6 to 8 years, the brilliant expat Taffy has displayed hundreds, many hundreds of anomalies in the Apollo photos that proves that they were all faked here on the Earth. Not one of them was taken on the moon. And the problem with those videos of mine is, where I would have one video showing maybe about 20 or 30 anomalies, we've got the NASA idiots, especially this Bertie Slack, picking and choosing, avoiding the irrefutable evidence, and simply trying to pass off as genuine the clues that can be classed as contentious. They could argue one way or the other, and they just come down to opinions. But this idiot Bertie Slack will not tackle the irrefutable evidence. So what I am doing now is a series where I do one piece of evidence, one anomaly per video. Then he can't pick and choose. If he wants to tackle that video, he's got to tackle that one piece of evidence, that one anomaly. He's got no choice from now on, folks. Now, my advice to all of you is, in any video in this series, do not watch any one video until you've watched the previous ones. Watch the lot of them in series, folks. Now, since Apollo 11 was supposed to be the first mission to land on the moon, here's a question I put to that idiot Bertie Slack. Tell me, do you think that this photo of this lem is genuine and taken on the moon? His answer to that is, yes, it is genuine, it was taken on the moon. Well folks, here's the first piece of evidence that it's fake and was not taken on the moon. First discovered by the brilliant expat Taffy. It's been photoshopped, and as you can see, the date on it is 2008. That's the year that Photoshop was first introduced. It's even got the time and the date on it. The photo is Photoshop. And despite the number of times this idiot Bertie Slack was shown this, he and his other idiot, the one who's always speaking through his astrobrant, always insisted that I, the brilliant expat Taffy, must be insane because Photoshop was not out in 1969. The two of them were too thick to realise if Photoshop was introduced in 2008 and this has been photoshopped, then it's been photoshopped after the date of the introduction of Photoshop. They have now seen so much evidence of that, they've now dropped that claim that it can't be photoshopped, because they were only making themselves look absolutely stupid, something that's common with Bertie Slack. He's now changed his mind and saying, just because it's photoshopped, that doesn't mean to say it is fake. Well, just ask yourself, why would they want to photoshop any genuine photos that were taken on the moon? They would not. It's just they were faked, and the majority of 95% of the photos were done with Photoshop. Now folks, the next thing I done with that photo, I've brightened it up to full settings. Now how many of you have ever looked up and seen the sun like that and a large grey circular area around the sun? And not only that, as a straight line with some glow to the left of the door of the lem. And what are these two circular brown patterns? Just what are they? How about an answer for that, Slack? There you are folks, the second piece of evidence that Bertie Slack is a mentally insane idiot. Now, look at this big yellow arrow I've got pointing down to that black area. Okay, what is this black area below? And in blue on the right, I've got, it's supposed to be the shadow of the lem, is it not? Well, any of you disagree with that? I doubt if the idiot Bertie Slack will comment, but if you study every one of the moon photos, you'll see that black is always used for shadows. Shadows are always black, and 95% of the times I've proven to you that they're not black shadows, they are just airbrushed in images, deliberately airbrushed in by the whistleblowers. And proof of that you're going to see coming up. Now, for those not aware, get a dictionary, check up the definition of the word shadow. You will find it states, a shadow is a dark area deprived of light due to an obstructing object. Now, the obstructing object here is the limb. Okay? Now, you cannot have one without the other. You can't have an obstructing object in the sun without it casting a shadow, and you cannot have a shadow without an obstructing object. They both go together. So, folks, one of the earliest discoveries by the brilliant expat Taffy. Question is here, what's that black object on the end of my yellow arrow? Can any of you see a black object? Is it a shadow? Let's take a closer look at it, shall we? There you are, folks. Take a good look at it. I've cropped it out, which is something all the idiots say I shouldn't be doing because I'm altering the detail of the photo. But I've cropped it out and I've enlarged it. Now what does it look like to you? Can any of you see a rock that can cast that shadow? You've got a shadow, but you've got no rocks and you've got no object to cast it. So what does it look like to you, folks? Well, folks, I know what it looks like to me. When I displayed this 6 years ago, another one of my subscribers admitted to what he could see, and that was the same as what I could see. What we've got here is a bird perched on the back of an armadillo. Take a look at this bird. You can see wings, you can see a head, you can see a beak, you can see two distinct legs underneath where they should be, you can see a tail on the back where it should be, and he's perched on the back of an armadillo that's got a head, a snout, and two front feet sticking forward. Now, folks, what you've got to accept is either there's birds and armadillos on the moon, or Bertie Slack is a mentally insane idiot. Obviously, what we've got here is whistleblowers' clues, deliberately black airbrushing in clues to tell us the photo is fake. Now, when I displayed this and a few others 6 years ago, the other numpty, the twat who's always speaking through his arstrobrunt, because he couldn't find an explanation, he stated they must be extraterrestrials. So, folks, as with the previous videos, let's take a closer look at this Apollo 11 LEM that's supposed to have landed on the moon, shall we? Now, take a look at this. What we're going to be looking at now is this big yellow arrow pointing to a black object that's supposed to be on the surface of the moon. Like I told you in the previous one, black objects are shadows. So we're going to take a closer look at that black object there. Something the numpty Bertie Slack have never given an explanation for. But one of his other numpties have, which you will hear now before long. There you are. I've cropped out that black object. Something that all the numpties say I shouldn't do because I'm altering the detail of the photos. But all I'm doing is cropping out the points of interest and enlarging them for you to get a better look at them. Now what is that? We've got something there that's black, like the shape of an egg, and it's got a black line behind it. Now what's casting that black line behind it? Well, if you have a closer look at this, you'll find there's no object in front of it, no rocks to cast it. So what is casting it? You will see it's pretty obvious that it's deliberate by the whistleblowers. A black airbrushed in rat. And here it is. Look, you can see his tail, his body, you can see his head, and like the armadillo in the previous video, you can see a snout and you can see his forward front paws. Just like the armadillo, folks. And folks, despite it being 5 or 6 years that I first discovered this, Bertie Slack has never given a credible explanation. It's one of the pieces of evidence he sidesteps because he's beat, because he can't provide an explanation without himself being made to look a right prat. However, one of his other numpties, the twat who's always speaking through his arstrobrunt, thought he could come up with a good explanation. This, as with the bird on the back of an armadillo, he stated, they must be extraterrestrials. Bertie Slack, you and the other numpties are mentally insane idiot. Point proven again. And if you want to dispute that, Slack, come back with a video giving us a credible explanation for not just this shadow, but every clue that I provide in every video. Now, as I said in previous videos, we're going to be starting off with this LEM here, the Apollo 11 LEM, because that was supposed to be the first craft landed on the moon. Now, I've dealt with some errors with this. We're going to take another look at it and see what else we can come up with. Okay folks, what we're looking at here now is another discovery, only by the brilliant expat Taffy mind, a discovery that this yellow arrow is pointing to. So what is that pointing to, folks? Let's take a closer look at it, shall we? There you are, folks. There it is, cropped and zoomed up for you to see. Now, what we've got here is a rectangular box about 2 inches wide, 3 inches deep, and about 6 foot long. It's a box that's bolted under the ladder, the one side. So what is it, folks? Well, you'll be amazed at what NASA claims it is. Now folks, what NASA claim this box is, just like you've got a case for a snooker cue, they're trying to make out they bolted this under there, it's a case to store the flag. Now, this is metal, and just remember, for this craft to be designed to land on the moon, weight was critical. They had to save weight wherever they could. And they're trying to say now that they didn't have enough room inside the LEM to store a flag, of which the pole is about 7 foot long, but that's in 2 pieces, so they'd be each about 3'6" long. And according to them, they didn't have enough room in the LEM to store the flag. So they bolted this box underneath and put the flag inside that box. And I'm going to prove to you that that's nothing but a pack of lies, folks. But before I show you NASA's lies and what that box is really for, take a look here. You've got the same box on the Apollo 12 LEM. And the reason for that is the Apollo 12 LEM is exactly the same as the LEM you just seen for Apollo 11. All they done was took photos from this left-hand side of the LEM and they called it Apollo 12, and they went round the other side, took photos of the right-hand side, and they called it Apollo 11. So now let's take a look at what that box really is for. Now, what I've got here for you is a close-up of that box on their so-called Apollo 12 LEM. You can distinctly see it there under the ladder. It's about 5 foot long. So, one thing I want to show you something very important here, because it's easier to see on the Apollo 12 LEM. I want you to show something that's going to prove what liars NASA are when they say this box was fitted to house the flag. And there you are, folks. Just look at the bottom of that box section, that 3x4 box section. You can see the bottom of it is completely blanked off. There's a plate there, the plate that's attaching it to the ladder. There is no way they could have got a flag in or out of that end of that box. There's proof that NASA, again, are a pack of liars, and they're hiding the fact, the real reason why they fitted this box onto this ladder. And I'll display in the next photo just what that box was for. There you are, folks. You can see for yourself what that box under the ladder is for. There's a modern example of it on the right hand side. It's an invalid chair stairlift mechanism. Only the one on the right shows the full chair, the full mechanism and the full footpad. The one on the left didn't have the chair, it only had a footplate at the bottom fitted on the rack. And the reason for that footplate is for them to fake the videos of them landing on the moon and exiting the LEM. This enabled the astronaut to come down the ladder, Neil Armstrong, put one foot on that footplate and they lowered him down slowly. And then they picked him back up slowly. And then they lowered him back down slowly again. Just to fool everybody on the Earth that he was in low gravity of the moon. And what do you know, folks? 70% of the people in the UK and 70% of the people in America all fell for it. They all proved what gullible idiots they were. But not the brilliant expat Taffy, folks. No, nobody else have ever spotted this rack and nobody else have given an explanation for it. Not even the mentally insane psychopath Bertie Slack. It's one that's too hard for him to tackle. Now, as I've shown you in an earlier video, we'll show it you again. This photo has been photoshopped, and as you can see, it was not taken in 1969. It was CGI in 2008. The date is there in the photo data, folks. And despite the date being there, you still had this Bertie Slack thick enough to always go shouting and bawling, don't be so stupid, you stupid idiot, how could it be Photoshop? Photoshop wasn't out in 69. He's shouted that for years. It's just that I've proven that every one of them are photoshopped. He's now realised what a mentally insane twat he was with all that verbal. He's now accepted it, and he's now trying to convince everybody that Photoshop doesn't mean the photo is fake. To which I ask the idiot, tell us you now, what's the purpose of using Photoshop if it was a genuine photo taken on the moon, stupid? Now, the anomaly we're going to be looking at in this video is at the top of the LEM, where you see the yellow arrow. It's a window, a triangular window for the LEM. And as you can see there, it is blue. You see that? Can't be any plainer, can it? A triangular window which is blue. It's not actually a blue sky. What it's supposed to be is a reflection of the lunar surface down below, because the blue is not fully filling the window right to the top. What it is showing at the top is black, which is supposed to be the horizon, and the black sky above the horizon. Now that's what's supposed to be in that window, folks. But folks, take a look at this photo here. 5862. One photo prior to the one you just seen. Now take a look at this LEM at the top on the right. There appears to be a triangular skylight, which shows a flag planted in the floor before our Buzz comes out of the door. Looks like the flag was here too soon before Buzz came onto the moon. There you are, folks. There's the window for 5862. I've brightened it up. You can distinctly see a flag on a pole. Now, how can it change from this flag on a pole to blue with just one click of the camera? Now, according to the nutcase Bertie Slack, here's where you see what a mentally insane idiot he is. When I first displayed this, he said it's not a flag, it's a navigation guide etched into the glass. Etched into the glass? Well, what about the window I just shown? Showing blue. Nothing etched into the glass there, was there? That proves this Bertie Slack is not only a mentally insane idiot, he's simply talking through his arse because there's nothing etched into any glass. So there you are, folks. How the hell can 5862 window go from this black with a flag in it to this photo coming up now. There you are, folks. The next photo, 5863, and now the window is blue. There is no sign of any flag at all, or any navigation chart etched into the glass. So like I said, Bertie Slack was talking through his arse. There you are, folks. There's the two photos, showing two different windows. So both of these, with just one click of a button, Neil proves that Bertie Slack's brain is nothing but mutton. Now, what we're going to be looking at here in this #8 is this white object here. If you check the descriptions, that's what's claimed to be their rubbish bag that they tossed out of the lem. Now, goodness gracious, the size of that bag, they must have collected a lot of rubbish going to the moon in 3.5 days, didn't they? How many empty crisp packets could you get in that? This is what we're going to be looking at, folks, and I'm going to prove to you that it's a pack of lies. It's not a rubbish bag at all, but something else. And you'll soon see what that something else is. Now, the first thing I want you to notice here is take a look at Buzz Aldrin coming out of this lem. He's coming out on his knees and his stomach. They say he couldn't come out on his back because of the pack on his back. So he's coming out on his stomach. Okay? Now that's quite alright. But what I want you to think about is this bag is there before Buzz Aldrin comes out of the lem. So, how did it get there? Now, prior to Buzz Aldrin getting out of this lem, Neil Armstrong would have had to get out of this lem exactly the same manoeuvring on his stomach. Now, if Neil came out on his stomach, he's the only one who had a camera on the moon. So he couldn't have come out with the camera on his chest. So he would have had to hold it in his hands, wouldn't he? Pretty obvious. So, how did Neil get this bag out of the lem and put it on the floor? Well, did he come out on his stomach, his left hand holding the camera, and his right hand holding the bag? How would he hold on to the ladder? He couldn't have brought it out with him like that, could he? No. Well, the report is they tossed it out of the door. They tossed it out before Neil exited the lem. Now, you don't have to be a genius like me, the brilliant expat Taffy, to know that that is a pack of lies just by looking at the position of the bag, or the so-called bag. Just look at its position. Now, look at the construction of this lem. Right outside the door, you've got a tray that you can see Buzz Aldrin has got his knees on here. And directly below that tray, we've got the ladder. Now, if you threw a bag out of there, it would bounce off that tray and down the ladder. It would roll down the ladder and it would land way in front of the ladder. There's no way they could have tossed that to go under the lem, the position it is. And we'll soon have some explanations from the nutters. He stuck his head out first and he tossed it under the lem, and then he went back in and then he put his legs out first. Load of nonsense. So there you are, folks. There's the first anomaly with that bag, is the wrong position that it is resting. Now, the next thing I want you to think about with that so-called rubbish bag, while it was in the lem and they pressurized the lem before they landed, there would have been air inside that bag. It would have been like an inflated balloon. There would have been air inside it. Now, to open the door, the first thing they'd have to do is depressurize the lem. And the moment they depressurize that lem, bang, goes the bag, just like a busted balloon. It will be full of air. And the moment they depressurize that lem, the bag will burst. Yes, we know we'll have all the nutters finding excuses for that, but Just remember, finding an excuse just for one anomaly is not going to prove that this heap of junk is on the moon. You've got to answer every single anomaly, and there's a hell of a lot more to come yet. Now, here's the next anomaly regarding this bag. Looking at the area around the bag, there is no astronauts' boot prints whatsoever around there. So, how did it get there? How did it get there, folks? There's no boot prints whatsoever. Now, here's the next anomaly, folks. Only spotted by the brilliant expat Taffy. Something that mentally insane idiot Bertie Slack is too thick to understand. If this is on the moon, this bag is in a vacuum. Okay? Now, just look up at the night sky, or any photo of NASA showing space. They show it as black. When they show a photo of space, the Earth and the moon can be lit up by the sun, the Earth can be lit up by the sun. The light from the sun comes in straight line rays, but you do not see those light rays glowing white in space. Light rays are invisible in a vacuum, folks. That's why you always see the sky as being black. You do not see multiple straight lines of rays going from the sun to the moon. The only time you see light from those rays is when they hit an object. They hit the moon, they light up the moon, they hit the Earth, they light up the Earth. But you don't see the passage of those light rays from the sun to the Earth or to the moon in space. No way at all, folks, and the idiot Bertie Slack does not understand that. Now, what I've done here, the two red arrows you see here, I've put to represent two light rays from the sun coming in. We can't put every one. These are just representing the light rays. And that's what shows the limit of the shadow on the ground. But look where the light ray, the red arrow, touched the top of this so-called bag. They cannot go round corners. There's an area there right in front of that bag. If it was in space or on the moon, light cannot go round corners. The front side of that bag should be perfectly black. There's no way light can scatter around on the moon. It can't go down corners. It only goes in a straight line as these red arrows are showing. So the area under that pair of red arrows would be totally black. There's no way light can get to it. It cannot scatter around. There is no atmosphere on the moon. It cannot go around corners as it does on the Earth. It goes around corners on the Earth because we've got an atmosphere and we've got light scatter. You cannot get light scatter on the moon in a vacuum. That area, if it was on the moon, would be perfectly black. It is not. That's telling you that this photo was not taken on the moon. Here you are, folks. There's a very good close-up of this so-called bag. Take a look at it. Examine it. What does your brain tell you? Do you think that's a genuine bag? We'll come back to it. There you are. As I showed you earlier on, here's another photo showing it. There is no astronaut boot prints anywhere around this bag, folks. Now, here's that bag taken from a different angle. This is AS11-40-5850. The photo is now taking the front of the bag. Something very interesting coming up. Now we've got the same here as I showed you earlier on, just from a different angle. My red arrows are representing the light rays from the sun. Straight lines, they do not bend. So that area, the end of the bag, if it was on the moon, would be perfectly black. Light cannot bend around corners. The only things that light up is what the sun's rays hit and light up. The sun's rays cannot get to this end of the bag, folks, without light scatter, which we've got on the Earth due to us having an atmosphere. Now, A very important point for me to show you here. As I just said, that area indicated by the blue arrow, if it was on the moon, it would be full black. You wouldn't be able to see the end of that bag. But you can see the end of it, but look at the end of it compared to the top. The top is a whiter white. So what we've got, that end of the bag you can see, it is in shadow. There is a shadow on it. It's a genuine shadow on it. It's darker than the top. Look at it. It's a genuine shadow. So look what happens when I brighten this up further. There you are, folks. Look what's happened to that shadowy end. Now that I brightened it up. As I keep telling you, genuine shadows will brighten up. What we had on the end there was a genuine shadow of this end of this object taken on the earth in an atmosphere. It had a genuine shadow around it. The light had scattered around. But look at the shadow on the ground. It has not brightened up one bit. The shadow on the ground is black airbrushing. But the shadow that was on the end of that bag is a genuine shadow that you get on the earth. That's proving that this object was photographed here on the earth in an atmosphere. Look at it. Now that I've brightened it up, it's just nearly the same as the top. Genuine shadows on the earth will brighten up, and this just brightened up, folks. There's proof that this bag or this object was photographed here on the earth. Another example of the same effect is this photo here, Buzz Aldrin. Two shadows here, one on the ground from Buzz, and we've got a shadow on the box that he's holding in his right hand. Look at the shadow on the box, folks. Now, just look what happens when I brighten up this photo, exactly the same as I just done that with that bag. There you are. Look at the shadow on the box. It's brightened up. But the shadow on the ground has not. That's because the shadow on the box is a genuine shadow of a photo taken on the earth. Buzz holding these boxes on the earth and a genuine shadow from the sun. As you can see, it is brightened up. But the shadow on the ground of Buzz is fake. It's black airbrushed in. Exactly the same situation, folks. Now, folks, something interesting here. Look at that little square on the base at the top of this so-called bag. If you examine that, it looks like the surface of the moon with an astronaut standing on it. Examine that carefully and use a whistleblower's planted clue, a photo of an astronaut standing on the moon. Now, there you are, folks, to let the cat out of the bag. There's what NASA's so-called bag is. It's not a bag at all. Just examine this and look at the sharp edges on it and the folds. You will not get that on a normal bag, a rubbish bag. What we've got here is a polystyrene stage prop, folks. It's a block of polystyrene. It's not a true bag at all. And being polystyrene, that proves this is not on the moon, because polystyrene is full of air and it would have immediately shattered into millions of pieces the moment they depressurized the LEM. 100% fake, folks. Another headache for the mentally insane Bertie Slack.